I'm Lisa Ann McCall, physical therapist, posture princess, lover of movement. Today we're talking about knees. Woo, baby. It's a favorite topic of many. So as a physical therapist, I spent many years working with an orthopedic surgeon who just did knees. So I had a lot of fun. I mean, I did ACL rehabs, I did meniscus, I did total knee rehab. I did it all, and I did a lot of preventing people from having knee surgery. So I really have a fascination with knees. And so let me tell you about it. If you have not known this yet about me, I'm the bone lady. I don't focus on muscles. I focus on the bones, and then the muscles follow the bones. That's the way I see things. And then I also trust the central nervous system being the, I'm just going to move this a little bit, being the overall guide to movement. So if I decide that I need to strengthen the quad, I think the body and its connection to all the joints and structure knows not only do I need to have strong quads, but I need to have strong hamstrings and glutes and abs and backs and all sorts of intrinsic muscles of the foot, and it goes on and on. So my perspective is looking at the whole thing, looking at the ankle foot complex to some degree, and then the hip and spine, and that knee just moves right in between there. And if they're all lined up and doing as they are designed to do, guess what? Knees are happy. Usually they're really happy. So let's just do a little play anatomy. I don't get really into this intensely, but let's play like this is a knee joint. You know, this is your upper leg bone, this is your lower leg bone, and you have another little one, but that one's not the weight-bearing one. So if I am weight-bearing on these two bones and they are really lining up, now they didn't look very lined up in this picture, but let's say the joint surfaces are lining up, then I'm probably going to have a pretty happy knee. Not only is it going to be happy, meaning it doesn't hurt, it's going to function really well because the ligaments that are all around it and in it have the ability to send messages to my brain and spinal cord to let me know when to shift, how to shift. So it's not just a muscle thing. We call it proprioception. There's receptors in ligaments and in capsules that tell the body subtly, no, yes, don't move that way, move this way. So it's not all about gotta have strong muscles. It's not what it's all about. So that's why I'm not a muscle lady. I think it narrows the perspective because muscles are important. They're gonna activate. But what I have found over the long haul is that people have more habitual movement patterns that create weaknesses in that movement pattern, and that is a lot of times holding patterns, tightness, just restrictions from maybe stress. And if we begin to set the structure up right, those patterns begin to let go. And let's just say I have a tight shoulder and my shoulder's turned in, and we begin to put the shoulder and the arm in the right place. Well, then the muscles that move that arm work really well. There you go. That's how I look at it. So let's go to the knee. If you are going to have surgery, plan to have surgery, or have had surgery, oftentimes they speak about getting strong in the quadricep muscle. And that is the muscle, those are the muscles in the front of the legs, these big guys, quad 4, okay? And many people will say that's responsible for good knee health. To a degree, obviously there's truth there, only to a degree, because you're too complex for me to say, I've just got to get this strong and that protects the knee. It's a simple concept, but it's not the total truth. And it's not wrong. What do you know? So, let's say you are going to do a common exercise in physical therapy where you put your leg out and you're sitting up, and sometimes they're now getting better about letting you lie down and do it, And you are going to tighten your thigh and lift it and hold 2, 3, 4, and down. Whatever leg you're working, okay? So I like lying down because it doesn't create as much tension in the hip. But I'm going to sit up for reasons of recording. So you tighten this muscle, you lift it, you feel it contract, and you put it down. Yes, after surgery, it's very important to focus on muscles. Now, did I just contradict myself? Yes, and I love doing that. Because you see, when you've had surgery, your central nervous system and the area which the surgery was have a disconnect. And that is what I call true weakness. I mean, there's not a lot of communication going on to that muscle. So I focus on tightening it, then relaxing it. Tightening it and relaxing it to get that connection. Maybe tighten and slightly lift. Anyway, I have different ways of doing this. But my way of rehabbing knees, whether I'm post-op surgery, pre-op surgery, or just knee pain, I have always 1 to 2 things I always do, no matter what, unless they can't weight bear. If they can't weight bear, then we have to wait till they can weight bear. And that is to do a movement that the knee knows. Why wouldn't I treat the knee like a knee and strengthen it the way it knows how to move? I don't do this in life, right? Now, like I said, post-op surgery, strengthening this area is making a connection so that that muscle works. That's cool. I do it for a short period of time and then I'm done. Now that I have the connection, now I'm going to show you, and I'd really like you to participate, especially if you have knees that hurt. Now, I can't diagnose and I can't treat. Right now, I can't do all the different reasons why you have knee pain, but I can show you a couple of things that you do anyway in life. You get up and down and you walk. So what do knees do? They walk, they bend, and they climb up and they climb down. So why wouldn't we do those things with great detail to make the knee happy? Now, one thing that makes the knee unhappy is for it to not be loaded in its natural way, where there's the 2 greatest amounts of surface area touching. Because if I don't have that, I create a shear force. If I only have a little piece of, it's like your house construction. You want the pillar in your house and the front door to hold something. So it's the weight bearing. These are weight bearing bones, and I want them to line up right. So let's go to that. So what I'm going to do is what I'm not going to do is kind of stand around my whole life with my weight forward and maybe even with my knees way turned in or with one leg way out, which is very common. Because right now, my legs are not my support systems. I'm hanging on ligaments. I've turned that foot way out. My knee is vulnerable because I don't have a good neurological connection between my foot and ankle, my knee, my hip, and my spine. So that neurological connection little phrase is when the muscles turn on and off, depending on when they need to. And there is no way you're going to know every time a muscle is turning on and off. And you shouldn't know, because you ought to be able to move fluidly without having to think about the muscles. And the more fluid you are, the more you don't even feel like you're working. So let's do a movement. I'm going to take this chair, and we have a lot of different ones, and I'm going to put it like this so you can see it better. And what I'd like for you to do is start off, I'm going to face you for a moment because I want you to get the feet right. If you excessively turn your toes out or excessively turn your toes in, you're going to have you may have problems in your knee, because aren't my ankles really really, really tied into my knee? Yeah. So put your feet straight ahead, your toes, then slightly turn your toe out about an inch. I know, it's small, but it takes very small movements to blow a knee out. It takes very small movements to create a strained knee. So it takes very small movements to correct things. That's the beauty of the body. Now, I've just slightly turned my toes out, but now you've got to get strong in your feet. So press your big toe down and shift most of your weight. I'm going to turn now. I'm going to turn now so you see this. Turn, I'm just going to do something real quick so you can see my legs better. There's a little contrast now. Okay, so you're going to turn your upper thighs out. Now, what happens is when I turn my upper thighs out, my toes want to come up. My legs want to roll out. Don't let it. Plant the big toe. Pause. Shift the weight back, which means you have to bend a little. Turn the upper thighs out, even if it's just the tiniest amount. Now, place your hands on your back and find your arch in your back. And if you don't have one, stick your butt out a whole lot. Now begin to take the crotch of your pants back. What am I doing to my knee? Well, right now I'm moving the weight back. The thigh bones are moving back. What's happening muscle-wise? Hamstrings, glute, back. Are my quads working? Yes. As long as I'm bending and I sit on the front of my crotch. Well, what was going on? The quads were doing a lengthening exercise called eccentric contraction. So I was strengthening my quads in a functional way in which I live my life. So it sounds really crazy, but I remember one day I thought, what if I just treat a knee like a knee? What if I just help the knee do what it does really well, bend and walk? I wonder if it will function better, and it did. Sometimes I don't think I'm too intellectual, I'm more common sensey, and that common sense part has just always given back. So it's common sense that I'm going to strengthen the knee in a way in which it is used. Now, I'm going to get up. So, weight is in my heels. I'm going to keep my back super straight. I'm not slumping. I even put my hands under my butt. Pick your butt up and stand up. That brings the thigh bones, which are part of the knee, into a place where all the muscles around the knee are able to work. And then you do this as much as you can in your life, in your day. And that's one real important movement. Now, I want to talk about standing for just a moment, and then I'll be quiet. Standing is not easy because the surface areas on which you're putting all this weight of your body are small. So it's subtle. It's very subtle. So what I like to try to give people is just step one is most important. Get out of really bad habits like throwing my leg out, or this one's one of my favorites. I just see people do all the time. They put their legs really far apart. And is that what my chair is doing? No, I'm a chair. I want my leg bones under my seat. This is my seat. So I want my leg bones underneath me. Don't make it too hard. And then my toes are slightly turned out. Now, where is the weight? Okay. Simple exercise, or simple practice, I'd rather say. I don't really care for the word exercise. Pull your toes up. Feel your weight go back. It's really good for your feet. Wakes your feet up. Get those feet to working. Pull your toes up. Feel your thigh bones go back. And then my favorite, if you've been watching my videos, is play like you have a pot on your head and press up into that pot, because then I connect all the way down. So, I pull my toes up, I press my head up, I relax my belly, I'm here. Okay? Now, it's not going to be perfect, who cares? It matters more that you begin in the right direction. You get out of this is what I see a lot, the wandering leg, the foot that sits out like this. and the arms across. Bring your leg in. Put your hands in your pockets, in your back, or on the sides. Relax. Pull your toes up. Stretch up. Be as relaxed as possible when you move your bones. Move your bones. Stretching your head up will cause contraction, but then relax. Just shift bones. So I think that I spent enough time. I hope you do that little exercise. It's pretty cool. Or movement. So, questions?
Len in Los Angeles asks, when are knees unhappy?
And knees are unhappy when they hurt and when they don't have full range of motion.
You talked about knees being happy when they're aligned.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what he's asking? When they're unaligned, are they unhappy?
Well, I think that your knees can feel fine. Okay, I use the word happy because I just am not a real medical terminology person. And I don't really care always talking about pain because sometimes people may just have stiffness. And when my knees are happy, they just do what I want and I don't have to think about them. And they can move really well. Now, alignment only really, really matters if you have limitations. I mean, I personally think that what I teach is very preventive. So let's say your knees are happy, which means they're pain-free, and they're not stiff, and you can do what you want to do. That's a happy knee. Right, now, I'd still do this bending and sitting because you'll maintain that happy knee, and you'll maintain a lot of integrity in your joints. So that's preventive if you don't have pain limitations. So you can use it as a preventative thing. Preventive, woo. Did you know preventative is not a word? Anyway, preventive, you can use it as a preventive thing, or you can use it to gain range of motion, balance, decrease in pain or get rid of pain, strength. There you go. That's a happy knee.
Bev in Biloxi says, I'm not sure what you mean by weakness pattern.
Okay, a weakness pattern. All right. If you do a sport.
Oh, she said, give me an example.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. If you do a sport, let's say you play tennis. I'm just going to use tennis because we all kind of know what it looks like. I don't play tennis. And you hit the ball, but you're not hitting the ball where you want it to land. Your coach would say there's probably a weakness in the pattern of that movement. Somewhere along the chain, from the feet all the way up to that hand and that racket, something is not, or maybe more than one thing, is not flowing. That chain of movements is off. So a good coach is going to maybe change your grip, maybe have you do drills on your knees so you put your shoulder in the right place, yada, yada, yada. Okay? In life, we have chains of movements. Here's a chain of movement. People will, women especially, will get up on there and they'll sit on their feet. They sit on their feet when they watch TV and they slump. That's a chain of movement. And that body, and your body remembers that. And you get up and you say, well, why do I even sit on my hip? It's because you want to balance your hips. Your hips are probably not balanced, and so putting a foot under there just feels right. It's a chain of movement. So I would take you out of that chain of movement and rebalance you. That's an everyday chain of movement. And then the tennis is a sport chain of movement.
Joe in Flagstaff says, I just broke my leg, had surgery, and now I'm rehabbing. My orthopedist just told me this morning, and he showed me how he wants me to strengthen my leg. He said I should open my knees like you do, but it looked like he turned his knees out much wider than yours. Good or bad?
Okay, wow. How you turn your thigh bone. His knee, may I explain? His knee is the bottom of the hip and the top of this leg bone. So the knee is two bones, right? So it's the bottom of the hip, and if I turn that out real big, well, that might make my knee unhappy because this part of my leg bone didn't like it. So what usually needs to be done is to really focus on the hip for that problem. Then the knee's happy. Often you have to go indirect to get a result for the knee. So there's a couple of things we could do. I wanted to bring this up anyway. Now this guy Joe probably needs to sit up high if he's getting over something, like a broken leg, I think you said, or something. He probably needs to sit up high. And he could do what I taught the other day and sit on the corner of a couch or a chair and sit on a pillow and have the opening here, which will help his knee. But I don't want him to put a lot of stress by turning his knees out, because that's not going to feel good, putting the stress right on the knee. Because what's going on? We got the foot. We got to keep the foot planted. I can't go out like that. It's not going to help me. I got to plant the foot. Then I like to turn the hip out. So the easier way for someone like him is to turn out from the hip, sitting down. Here's an advanced movement. This is a tripod chair, and this one over here it came from Africa. This one came from the sporting goods store. This one's a little higher. I recommend people get something like this. This is a Field and Stream, and you can put something in it to make it a little higher, softer. But I'm going to use a demo. I like this to get even more strength and range of motion in the knee. So say you don't have full range. You place your hands on your back, you do the exact same thing, but this time, instead of elevating my butt in the chair, I'm going to go into a squat. And squatting is great if done well, but squatting all the way to the floor is incredibly difficult to do correctly. So let's raise the squat up. I go into the same position, I put my feet apart and I sit on my crotch, and now what I have is I have forced my knees to bend a little more, but I did it anatomically in the correct way. I'm sitting in my crotch, I'm in a squat. Squats are fine. It's just that going all the way to the floor is complicated. So let's raise it up. So right now, a lot of people who have either pain in their knees or limitation can use this elevated squat to gain range in their knees, range of motion. Okay? Because if my knees are real limited, I'm going to need to learn how to bend and squat a little bit to get that knee range of motion. So I'm going to come back out of it, the same thing. A lot of times in physical therapy, they will lie you back and they'll just pull on your knee to get range of motion, or they'll press on your knee. I did that. I've hurt people doing that when I was young. And to this day, I wish I was never taught that. I think that's the most improper way to gain range in a joint, is to sit and force that knee, that joint, to do that with somebody else working on it. I think it's much, much better neurologically is to get people to go into positions that their whole body has to assist them in gaining the range in a movement that the human body was designed to do, like squatting.
Henry in Harrisburg. People in my health club argue all the time over the wisdom of the leg or knee extension machine.
Yeah.
Your opinion?
Okay. Well, you know, I love hearing this. It's not functional. Why would I do it? I have so many choices. I don't do it because it doesn't make sense to me. I have orthopedic surgeons that finally said they don't like it anymore. It's the same thing as sitting there with my leg going up, and I did it to people. I put them in the leg extension machine, but to me, it just creates a shear force through the knee. Like if I've got weight on the end and I'm extending it, then I'm putting a force in the knee. Is so unnatural. There's so many great choices of ways to strengthen the muscles around the knee. Squatting, bending, climbing, all of those are what humans do. And since we humans have been doing them for so long, you can always put a little more resistance when you squat. You can have a bigger hill to go up, okay? It's more about the quality of the movement. I don't understand leg extension machines or leg curls because you're isolating the body part away from the body. I don't think it's the most efficient and intelligent way. So I live in a country that I have so many choices. So if I have all these choices, why don't I pick something, one that I like, and two that just makes more sense? You know, if you do it and you love it, well then you should do it and love it. But I mean, I just wouldn't use it. Doesn't make any sense to me. But there's a lot of physical therapy moves and exercises that don't make sense to me anymore, since I use this kind of foundational concept and build on it. That doesn't mean this is all I do, but this is the foundation of using the knee as it's designed to strengthen, gain range, gain balance, gain all the things it needs to make it happy. A happy knee. and to rehab it. Another thing is, if you've ever read my book, it was a knee patient that turned my whole process of my mindset around. And I'm going to tell you a little story. So I'm doing all these ACL rehabs, and I'm working for the top surgeon in the Southwest. This is in the 90s. There were about 10 of them. And I'm just doing all this rehab, and then what would happen is, 6 months later, these people would come back, and it wasn't the surgeon's fault, by the way. Surgeons were doing fine. Beep, let's put that aside. But they'd come back and they'd say, my knee is rattling around, I don't feel the same, it doesn't feel right. That really bothered me. And then I had a wife of an orthopedic surgeon that had an ACL reconstruction. And she looked at me and she said, Lisa-Ann, I don't want to go to a gym and do all this stuff once I'm rehabbed. I want to get on my bike and ride my bike with my kids and play. I don't want to do this stuff forever. And I'm telling you, that stumped me. I couldn't answer. I thought she was totally right. Why don't I know how to do that? And in my book, as I talk about, I started studying ethnic movements because of a woman named Angie Thusius, an artist, who turned me on to it. And as I studied how we are designed to move well out in our life, in our world, doing whatever we do, no equipment, just doing life, that we have that intelligence. That is what set me free. That was my answer to my question when I started doing this stuff. It was life-changing. My patients were getting better. I was getting better. Everybody was getting benefits because I didn't have a foundational understanding. I didn't understand, what in the world should I do? Why can't she go ride her bike after her ACL reconstruction? The surgery's fine, but we're missing something as physical therapists. We are missing out on some important information. And that's, I guess whenever the student is ready, the teacher appears. That's what happened, baby.
Angie in Flagstaff, last question. After this, where can I go to see more about what I should do for my knees?
Oh, on my website? Have you noticed I'm not great at marketing? Yes. So, McCallMethod.com is my website. I have a beginner series. You can get a bunch of videos and work with me, and you can email me and say, hey, look, I want to do this, or I want to see you, or I want to work with you. But I'm really big on you having the independence to do this yourself. So I have built many years on helping you be able to have videos, have consultations, and have time to work on whatever joint in your body you want to work on with me, so that you can be, in a way, your own physical therapist. So, McCallMethod.com. And I think you should subscribe and share and like and anything else.
What about YouTube?
Oh yeah, YouTube, McCall Method. Is it YouTube McCall Method? That's where this goes. There you go. See you next week.